Welcome to the SSL Challenge here at the Nexon Arena. It's me, Valdez, with Rapid as always, and we got a bunch of great games tonight, especially the last two.
That is very true. Our last two are just going to be bonkers. We've got the guy who, if you just showed me a picture of any tournament without telling me what tournament it is and said he was in it, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that just makes sense, even if it's in the finals. TY, going to be playing here tonight. But this is SSL Challenge, and I think the challenge is to pretend like this is like the lower league because there's just so many insane talents. We've also got Byun, who I believe, if you just go by the game MMR, is the #1 player in the world right now. Oh my god. Yeah, just some absolute insanity. We also have Gumiho, the Towel Terran for Psystorm Gaming, will be playing in our second match after 4-0ing his group in GSL to make it out earlier today. Peasy. He's back to try to do it again. He only has to win one best of 3 this time around, and it's versus Jokji.
Yeah, and I think he is very favored in that one. Jokji, one of the punching bags of SSL Challenge. Man, I don't even need the quotes. He actually is just the punching bag of SSL Challenge.
It's just so interesting to see not only just which players qualified for SSL Challenge, but you know, the wide variety of talent that we have here. I would have actually expected things to be a little bit more, segregated. It's like, okay, well, we have all the good players here and bad players here, but turns out with StarCraft, sometimes these guys are just so good that, they can win on any given day, and sometimes even the best players just have like a super off day, and they do that moment where you're just like, all the audience members don't have to deal with the difficulty of trying to make it sound, good when, you like fly 8 dropships into, 10 Widow Mines on the ground.
It's like when Ryung got double build order lost against, or did I say Byun? I meant Ryung.
Ryung, you did say Ryung.
Okay. To Classic in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And he got 0-2'd, and it was like, that's Ryung we're talking about. And he just looked like it was a Grandmaster player versus a Bronze player.
Yeah, I think that's why watching tonight's games, especially the latter half, are going to be so cool, is because we get a chance to see Ryung in his sort of like home court and see what he can do versus TY. But let's go ahead and take a look at our rankings heading into tonight's week number 5. TY up the top of his group, no surprise there. And Classic actually way up there as well. So let's talk about his game and to start things off a little bit later on. And then for Group B, Hero way up there, lossless.
And another thing to point out is that we have 3 players that have already gotten into the second stage, Hero, Byun, and TY, who are all playing later tonight. And obviously the second stage, for you guys who don't know, it goes into another round-robin stage, but it's best of 5s, and it only has 6 players. So
yeah, so we're just thinning the pool, thinning the herd. This is what was for me in school. What was it? Calculus 2 was the weed out class in my math degree, and I've never seen people make simple concepts more difficult to understand than in a class where you're supposed to expel half the students. So I made it through. You
survived. That's good.
It was not a pretty sight.
I'm glad you're with us and you didn't die there in that class.
It came close. I had the teacher come up to me after class. She was like, "Hey, stay here a little second. I got to talk to you." And she's like, "Are you sure math's for you?" After I got a 42% on one of the tests, and then I went to grad school for math, and I was like, Yes, I was ready. Thank you very much.
I had a similar thing happen to me, actually, with physics, where I got a 38 on the test, and the professor was like, "Are you sure you want to take this class?" I'm like, "I think so." And then I only did 1 year of college, and here I am. So I guess it's 2 different paths. But we eventually ended up in the same location, literally, here in the Nexon Arena, so kind of funny how we got here.
It truly is a small world after all, Brandon Vladez.
Yes.
Tonight we can be together, of course, with all of you fabulous people. So I do want to mention, if you do have any comments, shout-outs, predictions, you want to tell Brendan how fantabulous his hair is today, or how he definitely won the shirt draw. I got the short straw.
I forgot to point out the elephant in the room. This is actually the first tournament where I've had 3 different shirts worn. Yeah. In day 1, I had a different shirt, and then day 2 and 3, well, I guess technically 2, 3, and 4 because Wolf did the first cast with you. But days 3 and 4, I had the other shirt, which I think was green, and now I have the brown one.
Yeah, this looks like something out of like an 80s sitcom, or like a 60s sitcom. Like, I expected there to be the boom, 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 boom kind of music as you slide across the top of a car or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm stuck with looking like my tie is tied on the outside. So let's go ahead and talk about our first matchup of the night. Classic, way on top of his group, facing off against Bunny, who did win early on in the SSL Classic, but has struggled ever since.
Yeah, here is our map list. Newkirk Precinct is the decided first map, as both these players really wanted to play on that. Funnily enough, different races, but then Belcher Vestige and then Abyssal Reef. So just 3 2-player maps, and I would expect Classic to just do what he has done, especially against Ryung. I think he's just going to go that straight-up Protoss style, where it's like Adepts, lots of Adepts, lots and lots of Adepts, Oracle openings, perhaps proxied, depending on the map, and the only thing is that I think Bunny is going to have a very good idea of what he's up against and what he should be facing in terms of what Classic is going to bring, so I would expect him to come prepared today.
Yeah, I mean, last week we got a chance to see Bunny go up against, I think it was Ryung, and that series was not pretty. So Bunny started out with double proxied barracks, and then had to float them back home and had no units the entire time, and then lost very quickly. So we're looking for a few more things to come out here from Bunny. And from Classic, this is the guy that I actually, see him on top of the group. I watch his games, and I think, well, this is going to be not an easy victory, but one you can expect. And then I plug all these stats into Aligulac, and it's just like, this is a dominating victory for Bunny over Classic. I'm like, what? So,
yeah,
some confusing things out there. Classic, you play on the screen right now, formerly one of the big backbone of SK Telecom's Protoss lineup. And now just, not quite up to his former self, but still super solid in the SSL.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned those stats. I mean, Classic, I think he was one of those players, especially in Pro League, where he would show up on a certain day, and you think about him, he's one of these big Titan players for SKT, then he would lose to a guy like Bunny, and it would be like, whoa, what's going on? He totally dropped the ball. I think he struggled with some nerve issues in some important matches, and they didn't use him too often for the Ace match. But if he's, this atmosphere here for SSL Challenge is very relaxed, so I would still, even, regardless of what Aligulac says, I would still have to give the victory to him, but excited to see what Bunny is going to be bringing in here. He's 1-2 so far with a set score of 2-5. One of the punching bags of Group A, I believe it is. Actually, no, I think it's Group B. Not 100% sure. Of SSL Challenge.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I don't actually think of SSL Challenge as like groups, even though they are groups. I just think of everybody playing everybody, and yeah, usually that works out pretty well. But is it Group A and B, or is it Group 1 and 2?
I think it's Group A and B.
I think it is Group A.
I was looking at it earlier, but I just forget which one they're in. But
well, it's easy to think of groups as like distinct entities if they have letters. Somehow, if you put numbers on groups, people just think of them all generically. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting to think that way. Maybe that's why they say Group A, Group B instead of Group 1 and Group 2.
Well, yeah, but you don't say Player A and Player B. You say Player 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like
some people say Player A and Player B. I don't think we're one of those people.
I don't hang out with those people, man. I walk across the other side of the sidewalk from them. Yeah, what was the other thing? Oh, yeah, it's like in Korean, there's like 2 different number systems for counting.
Yeah.
And it's not even like ordinal and cardinal numbers. They're just both there.
Yeah.
So,
one is just for like regular numbers, and then one is for when you're counting stuff.
Yeah.
So you say like 2 pigeons, you have to use a different 2 from just like saying the word 2, like day 2 or something like that.
It was a little bit weird when I was learning those, but A's and B's and 1s and 3s, and I skipped 2 there for no reason, but 2's not the cool kid in the room.
It just reminds me of, when you'd be really tired and taking notes, and you have like, the sub-sections of the notes, and you would like write 1, and then underneath that you write like A, and then you have to write like a small a or something like that, and you just get lost in the outline.
There's actually an approved official way that you're supposed to do those different levels.
Yeah.
Like it goes from like capital to lowercase to dash to dot to all these other things. And I'm like,
yeah.
I had to memorize. I was tested on this information in school. This is what we base our children's grades on, Brendan. If you know whether or not.
Do you remember now?
Expletive, no.
Do you use it in everyday life?
At any point,
that's another question.
Like people are like, well, I never used math, and I'm like, okay, well, yes. To quote numbers, we all use math every day, but do we use outlines? No English teacher who gave me a bad grade on the test. No, we don't. So have fun being super old while I am over here in Korea casting video games.
Yeah,
this is my true vengeance.
There's always the argument of like, you know, there is some stuff that you learn that you're not going to be using in later life, like let's say literature. I mean, it's good to have that background though, and to know about, you know, the other texts, the famous books, and all that great art and stuff. But when it comes to something like outlines, you can't really put that in the same, you know, because we don't use literature in everyday life really, unless you're arguing with your friend about the ending of Hamlet or something like that. I guess maybe you would rap it. You're like the one guy that actually would.
If I had a nickel for every time I have argued about Shakespearean literature, well, my friend, I would have many nickels.
Yeah. You and Tasteless going at it.
I would have no nickels right now because they don't have nickels in Korean currency. But
yeah, you can get like a 100 won coin.
That's about as low as it goes, right? And then they have the pennies.
No, they have the penny.
Okay.
10 won coin.
That one thing that is even more worthless than our penny.
And I think there's a 1 won coin. I'm not 100%
There's no
sure
way.
about that.
What is it made
Maybe
out of?
not.
Paper?
No, it's like really. It's like a cheap penny. I don't know. Maybe that's just the 10. I'm not.
No, there is actually a 1 won coin. I think it's made out of like aluminum or something. But we're just filling time, guys. Apparently there were some issues. Otherwise,
Classic. I think he went to the bathroom and came back, but he's in the booth now.
Yeah, no, he actually made it all the way back. So. In case you can't tell, if you've tuned into the Korean broadcast for tonight, they're actually having the most fun in the entire world up there. I'm going to chalk it up to the fact that they have a giant bear. In fact, were we allowed to, I would actually just run up the stairs to the little casting area for our Korean casters.
You can make a cameo on the Korean stream.
Kidnap the bear, run back with it, and then they would have to come down here and take it from me for my cold, dead hands.
What do you think they would actually do if you did that? Do you think like one of the casters up there would like come down here and grab it?
I don't know.
Or would a production person just come and be like, "No, you can't do that"?
I would probably be tackled
you
by
should
production.
try.
You know, I did that on our first day. I captured a wild Proteus from upstairs, and then I brought it down here. And the Korean casters were talking about, or the staff were like, one of the global producers just stole a Proteus. Like, yes, I did. And so here we go. We've filled time long enough to get into our first game of the night. It's Classic versus Bunny, and it's, you know, if I just looked at it, I'd say Classic. Bunny, however, historically or classically has done very well in this matchup, so who knows, Brendan?
Who knows indeed. Definitely on the Classic boat tonight. What about you? What are you thinking?
I'm definitely on the Classic boat, too, at least historically. PVT, super fun to watch. And here we go into game number 1.
Fly better fly in air.
I was just listening to the Korean casters say it. You can hear them say it so loudly all the way down here. All right, there's our yellow Protoss player, Classic. Even has kind of yellow hair, too.
Yes, and down here in the bottom right, the blue Terran. His opponent, it is Bunny.
All right, get out there and tell your friends that this is going on. This is the SSL Classic. Just because it is not Premier does not mean these players are not super badass.
Well, this is Challenge. You did Classic 2 days ago, I think it was.
And now I get to do Classic. Again, all is right with the world, Brendan. And so we're back. So this is going to be a little bit interesting. Probably I guess I would call this a Stargate opener, just because we do see double gas, so looking for quite a bit of that. He's also going to put probably 2 probes in each. If he goes for all 3, then we're looking for something super wacky. On the other side, just getting the 1 gas geyser up for a Reaper Scout.
I think on this map, when he played against Ryung, he went and proxied a Stargate, or it was a map similar to this. He is going to drop down the Cybernetics core, but there's that pylon at the wall.
Okay, so I was expecting tons of gas for Stargates, but that's not what we're going to see here. Cybercore coming down as the SCV Scout heads out across the map, and a lot of times I was expecting just, you know, hang back in your base and send the Reaper out with that early gas, but it looks like instead he is just going to use that to get up 1-1-1 behind an Expo.
Yeah, starting off with the Zealot here actually is Classic. You don't see that all too often. It's becoming a little bit more common, I think, especially on this map, because the rush distance isn't too long. You can get over there and be annoying. He's actually going to go Stargate in his main, not going to be proxying it here.
All right, just making sure I was okay on that one. So my prediction does come true in a belated fashion. The other kind of interesting thing to see here, I don't know, the Zealot, like you mentioned, pretty cool. Is the Adept just that bad? No, you're just spending off the minerals, saving the gas a little bit for later. And yeah, here's the factory coming up for the 1-1-1 behind that Expo.
Yeah, very important scout by Bunny to see that Stargate. He will have all the information. He's even throwing down a bunker.
What our observers just showed us there is that the SCV did, in fact, see that Nexus come down. A lot of times you want to usher the SCV out, then throw down the Nexus to not deny that information. But Bunny now knows there is an expansion on the way. Did he get a chance to scout that Stargate? I don't think so.
Yeah, he did. He got in there with his SCV, and he's making a bunch of
I can't remember, like
Marines.
5 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Marines coming forward. Won't be able to force the recall off, but a little bit of damage done.
Yeah, just going to poke that guy away. And Cyclone coming out here is going to make the defense even easier. And the Mosu Core is still hanging around. Looks like maybe he wants to get a scout. He might help kill Marines if he can just go straight for the Marines. But let's see exactly where this Mothership Core is going to go. It's locked on here by the Cyclone, taking a bit of damage, but here comes the Oracle. Marines in position. Just one SCV will be killed.
All right, so Oracle coming in the back. There's also a bunker up at the front just to allow that early expo. In case there was anything crazy with tons of Adepts coming in that early, would have been safe and sound. Probably see that salvaged here in just a little bit, but it does look like our build order is going to be Blink Stalkers, and I don't think it's going to be the all-in variety. We'll see if we do have that massive gateway explosion later on. Classic, I would expect to play a little bit more of a standard game on this map, but still have yet to really see which direction Bunny wants to go.
Yeah, just playing safe for now. Pretty standard. We do have this Blink coming out here, which you don't get to see all too often. Generally see the Resonating Glaives, and actually he was looking to put down a Nexus, but SCV was coming over here. Snipes that with the Oracle, is going to finally throw this down. This is pretty early, and it's going to go totally unscouted. That SCV was specifically to see the timing of the third, but now he just has no idea.
Well, the other interesting thing about this Nexus placement, it's also more of a forward Nexus, so it'll be closer to any push that Bunny does come out with. For Classic, that might also mean that he's just looking for you know, a place to expand to that allows him that forward sort of staging area. I think that's the official term for it. I don't know, but for Bunny, I think the interesting thing for me is going to be just in what direction. I think we're just going to go into straight up bio after this, but the early Cyclones, you know, haven't really done a whole lot.
Yeah, they're just chilling, and they're definitely going to help out against this Blink play. You can just hold them at the front. They do a lot of damage to those Armored Stalkers.
Indeed, they do.
And the bunker is filled up here with 3 Marines. We have 1 tank on the way, which will also be very helpful.
Yeah. I don't really care how good your Blink micro is. There's not a whole lot of advantage you're going to get from this one. Actually uses the revelation or the revealed Viking in order to get a place to blink up. He's actually going to snipe that reactor and blink out.
Doesn't even lose a Stalker. So nice bit of damage so far. A Viking and a reactor, and still has vision of the high ground here. Tank has come out, and I think it would be a little bit overzealous here for Classic to try to blink up into that many Marines at this point.
Yeah, so one thing that you can do as a Protoss is you come over there and the Terran will have built a supply depot or something near the edge. You just snipe that off and get a little tiny bit of value. But here's that big gateway explosion that we're expecting to see. 5 gateways on the way for Classic.
And he will have enough economy. You can see he's already up to 54 probes, and with that very early third base, still totally unscouted by Bunny, he's getting a nice explosion of economy here to be able to support all of those gateways. Going to add some robotics tech too, and the Resonating Glaives as a follow-up.
Yeah, this is the Industrial Revelation, or wait, Revolution. There we go. Sorry, I was looking at the Oracle moving around on the screen. I was like, oh, Oracle abilities. All right, well, nice tag there. It gets almost the entire army of Bunny. So Classic, well aware of exactly what's coming this way. The gateways are all just now coming up online. Last one being morphed right now. And Classic, a Protoss player who remembers his warp gate research.
Yes, that he does. He's not going to forget that
Ooh,
one. Nice
almost.
snipes. I like what he's doing here. He's delaying the push with the blink. Just coming in here, sniping some units, forcing some siege ups perhaps. This isn't close enough to hit the Nexus. He wants to snipe that tank, and he will.
Wow,
Hasn't
Classic.
lost much.
Great control there, and a lot of people think that there's just no way to deal with this big push out across the map for Terran, but Classic really forcing that siege up, getting in there, sniping off a couple of tanks, super well done. Still a lot to deal with, especially with his double drop in the main.
Oh yeah, this is going to be really hard. It looks like he's going to send some Adepts and just engage against the smaller army in the middle of the map, and Classic should easily be able to clean up both of these fights. It looks like actually, though, in the middle here, he wasn't really controlling and perhaps sent a little bit too much back into the main. So still having a bit of trouble cleaning up this army in the middle of the map.
Well, with the base advantage, even if Classic is taking bad trades, he's going to be able to macro back into a great spot. And if, as all good followers of the Church of Todd are wont to do, we look at the supply, you can in fact see that even if maybe that was a worse trade, Classic's still massively in the lead.
Yeah, he's sitting pretty now. After you hold that push, you feel really, really good, especially after you squeaked out that early third base, as you were talking about. Now this kind of opens up the map for Classic to put on more pressure. You could see that Classic was the aggressor early on in the game, and then Bunny was the aggressor in the middle. Unfortunately, Classic does not snipe that. Nicely done by Bunny. But now it's Classic's turn to move out on the map. He's added some Immortals, or just Immortal for now. Gonna use Blink to dodge that, and we'll have it up for the next fight here.
Needs to make sure not to hit that Widow Mine. Has not been revelated, or whatever you want to call that, but he still knows it's there. Well, in fact,
revealed. Well, I guess if you're using the revelation ability,
yeah. What do you call?
You gotta call it something else.
That is revealed. Because it's not a revelation is different than revealing. Like, I feel like it's also a different grammatical term, but we already talked about that enough to alienate all of our viewers. So let's see if he completes this shade, and he does.
Yeah, he's going on in, shade straight into that army. Nice force fields here to block out a bunch of those SCVs from fighting. Looks like this might just be too much. A huge warp and of Adepts in the back too. There's the blink forward as Classic looks to end game number one.
Yeah, and there's just not enough to deal with this. The army supply continuing to widen, and even with that home field advantage, oh, actually a nice mine connection onto that Immortal in the back. But even if this third does survive here for Bunny, he is stuck in his base. Maybe even a fourth base coming up here for Classic in the near future. Wouldn't be surprised. And yeah, Classic just pulls back a little bit and might even expand behind this.
Yeah, I like when players really do this and they do not get a little bit too antsy to end the game. Nice pathing here by the Oracle. Will scout the two medevacs, and
now that's what you want to do. You got to get that big rock reveal.
Oh yeah,
right there. Completely missed the medevacs, but no, you know where that rock is.
And we can see Bunny. He's trying to move out once again. And with Liberators, this will be a little bit easier, but still a large portion of these Blink Stalkers remain. That Blink is going to be very helpful. Up 50 supply now as Classic, and because Bunny moves out, he will be forced to go ahead and attack here.
Can you blink to dodge Liberator shots? I feel like you can, but you just have to have the actually best micro in the world. Turns out that instead of just pulling back, Classic was just re-macroing, and so here we go. 164 supply to 115, blinking forward, shading forward. Not a lot you can do to stop this. Even though that Liberator is surviving, it's not going to last very long. More Adepts than there are almost total supply for our Terran player, and Classic taking game number one.
Yeah, pretty straightforward game there. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Stargates in the main for Classic, and it didn't really do too much damage, but it forced Bunny to stay in his base for a little bit longer, macro up, get that army, and really the climax of the game was when Classic was able to hold off that big push. Very nicely done there.
Yeah, a lot of times it's the hallmark of an actually great player to know exactly how many units they need where. Because you're going to be against any comparable player, you're going to be defending in more than just one spot at once. So if you're in your main, if you're in your natural, if maybe you're trying to expand, you have a lot of stuff to do. And Classic was able to handle it very, very well. So... sorry, I just looked up there and saw that.
is on the Korean stream right now.
Yeah. They have a new player guest. I think last time it was Patience.
Yeah.
And tonight it's Byung-Shik. So if you guys want to see some dank Byung-Shik memes, he is up there with our Korean cast right now as their special guest. You would probably need to know Korean in order to listen in, but if you just really want to see him, he is a pretty funny guy. He's got even funnier builds.
Very nice guy.
That's why he's not here.
Well, I mean, he's known as being very tricky and very aggressive, all-in-y,
Yeah.
But he's a little bit not as good as SOS is at that kind of style. It's very hard to pull that off.
SOS is like a version of Myung-Shik that wins all of his games. So, well, except for his GSL ones.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And especially recently.
Yeah.
In SSL too. But... last year and the years before that, sure. I mean, they don't call him $sign for nothing.
No, man. He was pretty good for a while. Much like a guy that we got a chance to see play last week in SSL, Zest. You finally won a game. GSL, not so great. So it's been a little bit of a struggle for Protoss out there. So it's good to see Classic coming back and doing a great job defending, pushing out, not being too aggressive, just macroing up, taking that advantage, rolling with it into a Game 1 victory.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned Zest. He did get knocked out of GSL by Creator. Still has not won an official match against Creator. He is 0-5. I know that you mentioned that he did lose in an offline qualifier or something like that. Or he did win against Creator, but...
Yeah, so he won against Creator... Okay, so Creator lost against Zest to allow Zest to qualify for GSL once, I believe, and then Creator... just knocked him out of GSL again, so the circle kind of complete there. And I know you were actually kind of comparing that earlier to this game, a game where you would look at it and think, well, Bunny has been struggling a little bit. Maybe he's not quite as favored as the stats may say. Well, the games say differently. Classic up 1-0 coming into game number 2.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I think this is on Belcher Vestige. And then Abyssal Reef for Game 3 if it gets to it. So, guys, tell your friends to get into the YouTube channel and begin watching this SSL challenge with some fantastic players here. It's going to be Classic versus Bunny Game 2 starting in just a moment.
That's my plane noise, Brendan. All right, here we go. Better flying into game number 2. Our yellow Protoss in the upper right-hand corner. This is Classic.
And his opponent, down in the bottom right, the blue Terran. One of 6 Terrans playing today, actually. It is Bunny.
Yeah, today is TVT, or today's Terran Day, also TVT Day. We get a chance to see that game as our third game of the night. Super, super excited.
And the second one, TVT.
Oh, that's
Jogji
right.
versus
Jogji versus Gumiho. So I was like, I knew the players that were playing and just didn't register it as a TVT, but either way, we'll be seeing a lot of that later on. Got to get through our first one, and I saw someone write a negative comment on the internet today, Brendan, and it said that TVT was a boring matchup. Classic heard that, nice young man, and now he's coming over here with a very early probe scout to deny, to harass, and another one going to put down a Nexus at the same time before any aggressive units have been built. Gateway just now finishing, but this will be actually really interesting to see what Classic can get done here, because he is up one game, and maybe that means it's time to experiment.
Must be feeling pretty confident, especially after that pretty easy hold in game number 1. And in terms of form, I think Classic's definitely in better form. If he wins this matchup against Bunny, he qualifies for round 2. Yep, the second round. So this is a very important match for him. It seems like he's very focused. Like his builds so far, they've been very clean.
Yeah. And to go back to my point about why this matchup is so interesting, you just saw Classic go for that blink play to not only dodge mines, but to engage on a Terran army that's very sieged up. I know a lot of newer players really struggle with Terran to play against Terran because a lot of their units siege, so you really have to coordinate engaging on big entrenched positions. Classic just made it look easy, and I love having to execute well in order to break those Terran holds. You also saw his great multitasking, and I think there really is a lot of exciting things to watch out for here. For Bunny, you know, this is kind of his upward battle, but against a player he's used to doing well against, we just need to see kind of the style that he's going to use to do that.
Yeah, we saw Classic with a probe out on the map for quite a while. I thought maybe he was going to sneak down another pretty early third nexus in kind of a wonky location over there to the left, but just sends it back home. Still might be the plan a little bit later on, but he won't have the blink to defend. This time he is going for robotics tech.
Yes, yes he is. The robotics is halfway done. It's like he's also going for gateway tech, Brendan. Oh my god. But yeah, the robotics coming up. Here's our not quite gateway explosion. This is our gateway. I don't know. What would you? What's something? What's
a small explosion?
Yeah, I don't know. Like an explosion is usually like a big thing. I don't know. This is like our mini gateway explosion. This
yeah.
What is this? A gateway explosion for ants?
Yeah, it's a mini explosion. You know, it's exploding a little bit. 2 gateways is more than one. You can't really call one gateway an explosion.
It's kind of like a fly. You know, when you see a tiny fly, you're just like, oh, a tiny fly. You see like one of those big horse flies.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, exactly. So, were we seeing 7 gateways going down here, that would be the big horse fly. Nobody ever wants to see that, especially if you're a Terran that has to defend against it. Whew. Analogies aside, here we go. We're finally seeing both players macro up on the long side of Belshire Vestige. Both players on their respective sides. This is not necessarily like a no rush 20 game, but both players certainly taking their good sweet time. Bunny going to be the first one to break the truce. The double mine drop.
Yep, 4.5 minutes in. The Widow Mines come into the natural. One will drop an immediate overcharge. Classic really on top of that.
Hot pickup there from Bunny, grabbing that second mine almost as soon as it was dropped. So really good reactions there. Not going to allow it to get picked off. We'll scout that third base, so knows kind of what's coming up in case he wants to get his party started.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah, that is what happens. And
But unfortunately, the party don't start until I walk in, so he's going to have to watch out for that. I mean, I'm already here, so maybe that means he can start it whenever he wants. I'm going to preemptively drop these mines.
Those mines.
It's just so funny to see the Adept is right there, and it's like Adept versus Mine. The Mine can't attack, then he burrows, and all of a sudden the Adept's like, oh crap, gotta get out of here.
That medevac is so low.
Yeah.
He has to be so careful with that.
I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't go for one more stalker. Okay, here, as we were mentioning, Brennan, is the gigantic gateway explosion. 5 more on the way. I think this is going to put him up to like 8 or 9 gateways. Like that is a fairly large number, Brendan.
Yeah, looks like the standard 8.
We're nearing not being able for me to count that on my fingers. That's how I know it's a lot.
It's getting close, man. Dangerously close.
That's why Marines are so broken, because I can't count how many of them there are. It's like troll counting, one too many lots. And I get to lots and I'm like, okay, that's quite a few.
Yeah, you can only count as many as go into a medevac, which is 8. Got that done. I went to StarCraft school.
I was in a tragic accident in shop class. Now I can only count to 8.
Yeah.
I lost my opposable thumbs. I'm basically a cat. Cats would dominate the universe if they had opposable thumbs. I think there was a movie, like Cats versus Dogs or whatever, where the cats were on a quest for opposable thumbs or something. I don't know. I'm probably remembering that.
What about dogs? They don't have opposable thumbs, right?
Yeah, but they have, like, dew claws, right? Those count.
I guess, kind of. A little bit.
I don't know.
I think they have the advantage over cats. We do have this push coming in from Bunny, and it looks very similar. 2 tanks in that medevac, lots of Marines, but he's hesitating a little bit.
Ooh, and a big warp in now. Major overdrive there into the base. Only SCVs there, and I think Bunny's going to just go for it, defensing his third there, out waiting for the big shade. But now he's going to drop some more as he tries to break the forces here at Classic's Natural.
Oh, he doesn't kill that tank there, Classic. It's super low. I think he should have just spent one more shot And both of these guys are kind of going into a weird situation where they can't really handle the amount of units that are each side's bases, but I think Bunny is getting the better of this. He will eventually clean up those Adepts once he can get to the shades here.
Bunny's lost almost 40 SCVs, so yeah, Bunny right now has 15 workers, Brendan. Yikes. But he is going to lose his third base, so I don't know if that's really a win. I mean, you got to think Classic's further ahead there.
It's a wonky situation because, you know, being on 2 base now against the Terran that's about to be on 3, and he will have 3 orbitals, so...
Right, and I love this decision by Classic. As soon as he realizes we're getting into that sort of wacky base trade situation, immediately throws down the Dark Shrine.
Yeah, wants to have that here, and I love that Bunny on the opposite side just says, okay, that army's too big for me. I've done my damage. I really need to get my economy back and up and running, so I'm going to just go home. And there's another Warp Prism coming out. The one that Classic had at the base was shot down. So we'll remake that. We'll have it available for the Dark Templar to be warped in.
All right, so this is kind of cool, because if you just look at the differences in their supplies, you can see the worker count vastly in Classic's favor, but on the other side, Bunny actually just has more stuff that he can go and do stuff with. And I think you know, he did definitely get a lot of damage done taking out that third base, but he's just kind of walking around with his medevacs underneath what I'm sure he knows are observers, narrowly missing that one.
Yeah, that was really close. And the observer you were talking about will spot this army coming on in, so Classic should be able to defend this third base pretty easily. Really needs that to begin coming up here, and would like to get a lot more damage done to the newly remade economy of Bunny. Coming on in here with just 2 DTs. Uh-oh. No blink, but he's going to get underneath those medevacs.
What are you doing with your medevacs, bro? All right, got to get those out of there. DT now in the main, and with a lot of these this energy used for mules, there might not be that many scans. Does use one of them, surrounds the Dark Templar. It's a revolt, and they will finally take it out. No, Warp Prism in there for the save. Can he micro them enough to stop this turret from coming up? He's trying to target down as many SCVs, but the turret will finally be erected. Unfortunately, the SCVs are getting wrecked again, and after losing 40 SCVs, Bunny loses another 32. He's down to 5 workers, Brendan.
Yeah, now he's forced to fight, and I don't honestly know that he can win this fight. His army was out on the map. He wasn't expecting the DTs, and now he has 0 economy. He really can't come back from this. So, I don't care how many mules you have. So now he needs to do some critical damage to Classic.
I think it's, is it Maru's SSL icon that's the Marine on a cross?
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I don't know. We might need to give that one to Bunny, because he is sacrificing SCVs like there's some form of currency. Unfortunately, yeah, that Dark Templar will be able to get through. But every scan that Bunny spends is 1 less mule.
And still the Warp Prism.
Oh, no, he's
going to see how low that was.
He's going to drop another DT and probably another big Warp in Bunny's main. And Classic knows that he doesn't even need to fight Bunny right now, because he's taking such massive economic damage.
Yeah, he's just sitting back, chilling. He's got a very nice concave, and uh-oh, he's going to get on top of these tanks. One will go down very, very soon. The Shade in from behind. And a nice Widow Line hit, but just not enough stuff here for our Terran player, Bunny. GG Classic takes the 2-0.
Damn, looking good. And really kind of cool to see which player sort of valued different things in the base trade. Bunny was going for SCV kills, and, or not Bunny.
Classic.
Well, Bunny was the one taking the SCV kills.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, yeah, Classic took out, I think, total maybe like 70 SCVs.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous
like 30
like that.
And then another 25. So it was like 60 SCVs. Not a safe work environment by any means, and he will advance to Stage 2 of the SSL Classic.
Yeah, and I was favoring Classic coming into this one, but I wasn't expecting it to be that fast, and I also didn't expect him to play that style, too. He kind of mixed it up. He wasn't as, no proxies in the 2 games that we saw, but also he played a pretty defensive style.
Yeah, going for a more macro style was always trying to get up that third base, not going for any sort of one base Stargate tech like we've been seeing a lot more of lately, or any of those crazy two base adept all-ins like are kind of the flavor of the month. Yeah, playing a more defensive macro style, not afraid to pull back and hit his macro cycles, and he just did it incredibly well. Bunny, on the other hand, showed signs of life trying to make that aggressive drop play in game one. Classic was just too on top of it.
Yeah, so Classic, he does take the 2-0, and now he's 3-1 in sets, so I'm 95% sure that he gets into the second round, and that means we might have an interview with him, but he's currently still in the booth, so we're going to have to wait a little bit to get that done. Seems like the ref is calling him over desperately. He's like, please, we got an interview.
All right, well, I think that does mean that we're going to head out to a break here in just a second.
I think we do the interview first.
Do we do the interview first?
Yes, we do.
The interview first. All right.
A magical voice in my head said it rapid.
I don't know. I don't think the first time I heard that voice, I thought it was magical, and then I realized there's a person on the other end.
Really?
Yeah. Legend has it. Sometimes it was actually a different.
I thought it was Tasteless. Actually, he just knows everything about StarCraft. So.
That is true.
Just talking to me from his house. He's like, "No, actually, we have the interview." Thanks, Tasteless.
Whenever I start sucking on the broadcast, I can feel him warg into my body, and then I'm just like a robot caster, and I just say everything that he says, and then I GG at the end of the broadcast, and it doesn't matter what I've said before. Everybody loves it.
You got to do the deep growling GG, too. You know that one. Everybody knows the Tasteless GG. There's even an emote.
There is.
Thanks, Nathanius.
Big fan.
Yeah.
I saw that emote, and I thought Tasteless had a channel that I wasn't subscribed to, and I'm like, wait a second.
I wish Tasteless streamed a little bit more. Maybe you guys can hit him up on Twitter. But we do have this interview with our boy Classic, who's got some pretty slick hair today, Rapid.
Also, by the way, the same shoes that I'm wearing.
Whoa.
Big fan. Gotta get your superstars out there. So first off, Classic, what's up with the new hairstyle?
주인공도 아닌데 이 정도로 화려한 헤어스타일을 왜 했을까? 지금 이거 저 오늘 샵에 갔다 왔다는
Waiting to hear his very complicated, in-depth answer. They're just sort of praising his hairstyle and saying how epic he is, almost as cool as the games that he played. Classic says, yeah, I didn't get it done per se, but I've been doing a lot of curls with my hair. So I've also been watching the Korean drama Dokkaebi,
which is Goblin.
Oh yeah, Goblin. That's actually so sick. If you guys are looking for a good new Korean drama, Goblin is great. It's a little bit controversial here in Korea, but I think it's super cool. Mostly because I'm not like a teenager watching it, but pretty sick. So, Classic, gonna be a future star. So Classic, what's the reason behind your hairstyle change? These are the questions inquiring minds want to know, Brendan. We gotta know about Classic's hair. I mean, he just 2-0'd, one of the top few players in the world, but we gotta ask about his hair first. This is a pressing question. Classic says, no particular reason. Specifically, he didn't change his hairstyle for anyone specific. I think they're trying to see if his girlfriend made him change his hairstyle or something.
Well, promise rings are pretty popular in Korea, so if you guys want to hint, see that Classic is not wearing one.
I'm not sure what they're showing there on the paper, but it looks like they're saying that their interviewing skills are pretty bad. I can't really comment on those. My interviewing skills are pretty bad.
They're just.
All right, so just saying, hey, Classic, when you go to the next stage, you're going to be seeing some Group B players there as well. He says, yeah, I'm not actually looking forward to that very much because that means I'm going to have to play against Beyond.
I like how this caster shows him the format of the tournament again. Like, he shows it to every single person.
Well, not all the players know.
Seems like none of the players know.
Yeah, last week they were explaining the format to the players. I forget. Oh, they asked Hero. I think who.
Yeah.
What do you think of this format? And Hero's just like,
it's like what format?
What format? Yeah. All right, one more question here for Classic. Coming up,
이 친구가 타겟팅, 소위 말하는 타겟이 있다.
Get that translated
저희 항상
here for
스타리그
you
인터뷰할
guys.
때 우리 또 이현경 아나운서 이야기 항상 많이 재밌었잖아요. 그래서 오늘 혹시라도 이현경 아나운서에게
If it's another question about his hair, I don't know, man. So Kanada's gonna ask him, maybe,
저희 보팅 하나 해드릴게요.
did you change your hairstyle because you wanted to see Hyung-kyung, our announcer, at the Nexon Arena today?
네, 제가 딱 해서
Yeah, famously, Classic does have a crush on Hyung-kyung. Has said it many times to her.
Spoiler alert, Classic. A bunch of other people do too, so Classic's gonna have to win a few more games.
유대현 씨 말하는 것 같은데 그분은 아주
I'm gonna guess his answer is no.
성공률이 낮아요. 왜냐면 약간
He says, you know, well, I've seen her a couple of times at Spo TV programs before, but no, not quite. That's not the reason for him changing his hairstyle. Apparently, that is the most interesting thing about Classic right now. You know, I was actually just wondering about his, careful macro style and what he thought about Bunny's play style and winning these games, but
or
no.
the state of PVT, or what he's thinking.
There are lots of things we can ask. Oh, by the way, one of the best Protoss players in the world, but also style. This is a little bit more of a laid-back program, guys. So Classics actually just said that he's quite terrified right now. I guess that's about him advancing to the next stage. So asking him about that, Classics saying, I really want to get this fast win and move up to SSL Premier, but that he's also going to practice very hard now that he's made it to the second stage to advance to SSL Premier, which is his goal. So now we're going to head out to a commercial. Jakji versus Gumiho coming up, our first of many TVTs. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.